Well, hello and welcome to Rosie's Preserving School Pressure Canning. We're on the penultimate workshop today, and we're going to be making ribollita. And that has an Italian origin. It's a very hearty vegetable soup with a bit of a twist at the end. And I know we've done soups and we've done, all sorts of things over the what will be 22 workshops, but with Christmas coming up, I just thought this would be useful to have on the shelf if you've got lots of hungry people to feed, if you've been out on a Christmas walk or something like that. And the next workshop is something also useful to have on the shelf. So this has got a bit of a twist that actually elevates it from just being a bowl of soup. So that's why I included it. Now it's got leeks, it's got carrots and celery and chopped tomatoes, or you can put whole tomatoes in, of the San Marzano type, the Italian tomatoes that are so good. The tinned ones are really, really good, so you can use those. It's got herbs and some oil. And I've chopped, you use all of the green parts of the leek, which is good because you buy leeks or grow leeks and then you've got to throw half of it away. Well, you don't have to. The green parts are in here getting thoroughly washed in water with some salt in it, because they do pick up sort of the soil and a bit of grittiness. So they're being washed. And then I've got the white bits here, which I'm going to chop. And I'm chopping I've got 3 sticks of celery because the sticks of celery were actually quite small, so I'm just chopping those up. But I need to start off by cooking the leeks in a little bit of oil, which I've got here. I'm obviously using olive oil because it's an Italian recipe, but you can use whatever you prefer. I hope by now you know that you can swap things out that you'd prefer not to use and add in alternatives or not, according to what you want to do. So I've got my pan here already clogged up with utensils. I'm going to put that on. It's a really bitterly cold day here today, so this would be ideal for having. So that's about 2 tablespoonfuls of oil in there. 2 to 3 it says, so that'll be fine. Put that back there. I've got to chop the leeks up. I'm going to chop the white bits now. I'm going to cut them into sections. They're so huge. It's nice to have, but difficult to manage. So I'm going quartering those, cutting them into 4 pieces and then slicing them across like that. Now ribollita actually means recooked, so this is the perfect recipe to pressure can, because we're going to be cooking it today obviously, and then when you heat it up there's a few more things to do which are detailed on the recipe sheet, so you can, it's the ideal one to be finishing off when you want to eat it. You can of course make it fresh, but it tastes better if you leave it overnight and then have it the next day. So turn that down a bit. I don't want actually the oil to burn the leeks as soon as I drop them in. Nothing worse than a burnt leek, I don't think. I ordered the leeks from the farm box and they are so huge. I've got 4 in the box and I only need 2 for this, so I might make some leek and potato soup as well, which is also very nice, because we're having soup every day at work at lunchtime, because it just warms everybody up. So okay, let's do the next one. Move those over a bit. I'm going to put some of these in that have been soaking, because the oil won't affect them quite so much. I'll just put some salt in the water to draw out any bits and pieces, which it has. It's quite convenient because they float nicely. So if you keep stirring them, anything will drop to the bottom and you don't pick it up when you take them out of the water. So that's that bit. Get my big spoon. Give it a stir. Some of these in so that they're cooking as well. I've got a bit more room. Chop up these last two pieces. Now this is going to be jarred up. The jar's going to be filled with hot mixture. So I've got my pressure canner on warming up as well, so that we've got hot water in the canner and hot filled jars. Keep the temperatures even. So there we are. All those bits. Give it a stir. Turn it down a bit now. The heat's got into the pan. Right, if you're using a chili, get it, it says half a chili, so just cut it in half and thinly slice it. I'm not actually putting in chili today. I couldn't get any, and we've had a lot of soup recently that's had chili in, and I just want to sort of ring the changes a little bit and have something that isn't quite so hot. So I'm just going to leave those to cook on. Now I'm going to prep the carrots. Got 2 carrots here and my peeler. And if you can, keep everything more or less the same size, because it will cook more evenly like that. I always think making anything with celery in smells very appetizing. It's strange because when you come to eat something with celery in, and it doesn't really taste predominantly of celery, but it always makes it smell tasty, if you know what I mean. I'm cutting the carrots into 4 as well. Add a little bit more oil into that. That's it now, absorbed most of it. And we'll stir. Like that. Okay, now while the leeks are cooking, I'm going to take the lids off. I've got 6 1-litre jars today, but I don't think that this mixture will make as much as that, but I'll take the lids off anyway. What I want to do is just do enough garlic to put 1 in it to each jar. I'll do 4 jars ready, and then if I need the others, I can quickly put them in. I find doing it like this, the garlic softens in the processing and kind of melts. into the contents of the jar, but sort of infuses it as well. And it's just easier than chopping a mass of garlic. 3. You will find, as I do, when you try out new things, that you get a preferred way of doing things, and that makes it easier for you and is your preference. So, and that's exactly what's happened with me, because I'm making a lot of things for the first time, so I can bring them to you, things I haven't made in the past. So I'm kind of learning what the way I like to do things. Now I'm going to put in my prepared vegetables, my celery and my carrots. Now, if you've got some fresh oregano or dried oregano, you can put that in as well. I've got some dried Italian herbs that I haven't even opened yet, so I'm going to put a little bit of those in. Oh, they smell good. So I'm going to put about a teaspoonful in. Or maybe another one. There we go. I know the recipe says a tablespoon, but sometimes it's a bit too much. Okay. Stir them round. I didn't put any salt in because I've got my salted vegetable stock here, so that will be sufficient. So I'm just going to open the tomatoes and pour those in. Now I've got chopped tomatoes here, but if you've got the whole San Marzano tomatoes, then put them into a bowl and just sort of either squish them with your hands to break them up a little bit, or with an end of a spoon or something. They don't really need to be as chopped as small as the ones I've got, but it's nice to sort of break them up. And then it means that everybody gets some tomato instead of somebody having a whole one on their plate, and the others not. Okay, put the other one in. I'm going to keep the tins though, because when I put the stock in, I'll rinse them out. Being very frugal. So mix that round. And it's heating up. I'm going to turn that down a bit for a moment because we're not quite there yet. Now, beans. I've got a jar of beans that I've previously processed, and you can do the same, or you can get a tin of cannellini beans to put in, whichever. Oh, why is this not catching? Oh, there we go. So they can go in. I've got borlotti beans, I think. There. That. And heat up a bit. Make sure I've got everything in. White beans, water, stock, garlic, olive oil. Yeah. So I'm just going to get this stock into bit in to get the last of these tomatoes out. Push the tins so they're safe to put in the bin. And lastly, we're going to pour in the stock. Stir the bits of vegetable around that are in them. I'm going to put the whole lot in. There we are. And give it another stir. Knew that would happen. Let's turn that up again. So that's everything in. There's my kitchen paper. Just going to wipe that mat off and then I can put the jars on it. Making a mess of them. Haven't got garlic yet. Probably will get a 5th jar. Let's peel this other clove of garlic. It's the smallest clove and it's difficult to peel. There. Okay. So once that's heated up, we'll get our funnel ready and ready to fill the jars. Clear the decks a bit. My lid's over there. Maybe. These here, and then I can put the pan down level so that I'm not reaching up to fill over the hob. It's really good and hot. It doesn't have to be cooked and soft or anything like that. The pressure canning will take care of that. Let's turn that off. Lift it down carefully. And I'm going to get rid of the spoon so that I don't catch on it and pull everything over. And there, I need my ladle. I've got my funnel in place. I'm just turning the pan around so I can get the pan up to the level with the jar, so I don't drip it everywhere. So it's the usual up to the fill line, or 3 centimeters or an inch from the top. Try and get an even amount of the base stock and the vegetables so that you don't end up at the end without one or the other. All right. Haven't put it quite to the top or to the fill line because I may add in just a bit more water on the top to achieve that, so that the vegetables have got something to expand into. We'll see how we go. I think we're only going to make 4. Right, now then, we've got quite a lot of vegetables in this first one and not so much in this last one. So I'm going to even it up by putting some of the vegetables that are packed into this jar. Then I can top up with the stock that's left at the bottom of the pan, which has a few vegetables in it, but not many. It's that one full. Do this one. And this one. Picking up any stray veg. And a good thing about having these bendy silicone ladles is you can get right into the bottom of the pan and get almost every drip. So you don't leave anything behind. Right, so I just need a spot of water to top those up, which I'll go and get right now. It's hardly anything. It's not going to make any difference to the flavour. Right, now because this recipe has olive oil as the base to cook the soup, you're going to need to do the rims of the jars very, very carefully to make sure that they haven't got any grease or fat or oil on them. So I've got my vinegar here, and I'm wipe them very carefully to make sure. And each time I'm going to turn to a clean piece of paper because you don't want to transfer it from one to the other. You can see on the paper there the discoloration, so you know there was some on that jar. And this one. And the last one. Right. Now the lids. Seals and screw tops, and they can go into the canner as I do them, which is nice and hot. Put that little garlic in that one as well. I'll wash that before I put it away. Good. Now today I've got plenty of room. I'm going to put the lid on. Get it around the right way. Set and close. Now it's turned right up. So Once it comes up to steam and it's venting, I'll come back just before we're going to put the jiggler weight on. So I'll see you in about 10-15 minutes. Hello and welcome back. The canner is vented and I've put the jiggler weight on. And actually it's up to pressure, so I'm now just trying to set the timer to 90 minutes because I've got the 1 litre jars in there. The timings are on the recipe sheet, so check them before you start. I've got to get to 90. Start like that. I'll just turn the canner down because it is sort of charging along a bit. So now if you go to the second method page on the recipe sheet, the last page, it gives the second stage instructions for serving the soup on a subsequent day. So if you're serving it the next day or you've canned it and you're going to keep it, whenever you serve it, you need to start by making a bouquet garni, which confusingly is a French term for something that's going into an Italian dish, but I don't know if the Italians have a separate name for it. Oh, excuse me. And that's just a couple of fresh bay leaves. So I've got some fresh thyme and some fresh rosemary just tied into a little bundle. And when you reheat the soup, you're going to add that in to give that distinctive Italian flavour. So you empty your jar or jars of soup into a large pan and put the herbs in and just heat it over a medium heat. Now, if it's processed quite thickly and you want to make it more liquid, you can add more stock or more water at this stage to make it the thickness you require. Now, it's traditionally served with Cavernero kale, the dark, curly, the very heavily ribbed kale that is completely seasonal in the winter. So if you can get some of that, do so. The amounts are in the recipe, and wash it. And you don't want to put the thick ribbed part in, just tear up the green bits into pieces and add that into the soup. You can add any kind of greens if you want to. If you can't get or don't have the Cavernero, anything that's got quite a robust flavour would do the job. And you just want to heat that gently now until it's piping hot and you're ready to serve. In the meantime, you'll need, depending on how many people you're serving, 1 or 2 ciabatta loaves. Now, I suggest if you're going to use this over Christmas, you get those ones that are backpacked so that they can just sit on the shelf and be opened when you need them. And you need to cut those into cut the whole thing in half and maybe in half again. And you're going to rub some cloves of garlic on both sides of the bread and then drizzle it with olive oil. You then grill it until it's nice and toasty and maybe a little bit charred at the edges, you know, that's always good. And have that ready when you're going to serve the soup. You can grate in a whole load of Parmesan just before you dish it up, and then you top it. I suggest you serve it in a big bowl if you can on the table. Stir in the Parmesan and then tear your ciabatta into chunks and put that on the top all over, and it should sort of go into the soup a bit, but also have nice crunchy top of some of the toasted ciabatta that's still showing above the surface. And that's it. You can add in different vegetables if you want to. You can vary it, but that's the traditional way of doing it and the traditional flavors. But as we know, everything's a moving feast, isn't it? Now, I'll just put one last top tip on the bottom of the page there. If you've got you often get towards the end of a piece of Parmesan and you've got a quite thick rind, and it gets more and more difficult to grate the cheese. And if it dries out, it gets really rock hard. Don't toss that into the bin. You can keep those ends. And if you're making a soup like this, in the heating up stage, you can put that chunk into the soup and it will impart a whole load of flavor. It doesn't have to be this soup, it can be anything like this. And then when you're going to serve, fish it back out again and wash it and dry it and keep it in the fridge, and you can continue to use it until it's just about spent and there's no cheese left or flavor left. So don't waste things like that, because they are pure flavor, really. So that is the Ribollita soup and its serving instructions. I'll leave you there with that. I'm going to come back at the end of the processing time and film the canner opening, and then I'll see you in a couple of weeks' time for our final workshop. Hello, welcome back. Well, the canner is finished and depressurized, so I'm just going to take the jigger weight off and then undo the canner. And to push it away from you so that the steam doesn't go in your face. And find somewhere safe to put it to cool down. Now I've got my towel here folded ready. And lift the jars out. Ooh. Only 4 this time. Oh, it smells pretty good. Bubbling away. I think this is a real Boxing Day soup, this one. Anyway, there we are. So we need to leave those to cool down for 24 hours before we take the lids off. I'm just going to tighten them up because they loosen during the processing. And then we can remove them tomorrow and just check that the seals are tight. So they have Ribollita. I hope you enjoy, and I'll see you in a couple of weeks for the final workshop in the series when we'll be pressure canning some venison. I'll see you then.